Welcome back, everybody. Good to see ya. Hopefully, y'all are aware of the channel we're going to be talking about today. It's a channel called Life Take Two. For those that don't know, I'll give you a little bit of background. She's a woman who grew up in a very restrictive, conservative household. She was encouraged to get married young and did exactly that. Married a very, I think, Mormon, conservative MAGA guy. And obviously, she was very committed to that sort of Christian trad wife, conservative life, and spent decades of her life living that lifestyle and bringing her kids into that lifestyle as well, because of course she had children with her husband. But at a certain point she realized that her relationship with her husband was abusive, that the political ideology that sort of modeled their household was toxic, and decided to leave him and took the kids and got out of there. And more or less restarted her life from that point. Got out of the indoctrination of the right-wing trad wife lifestyle and realized she, in her words, had wasted decades of her life being a maid for her husband. Her ex-husband. And so now she is ex-conservative and spends a lot of her time making videos about the culture of being conservative and how young women get groomed into marrying loser right-wing men before they're old enough to have any, concerns about making a decision like that. And the next thing they know, they've thrown their life away and are committed to a relationship. They've got kids, they're living together, and they're 25 years old and they're regretting things. And it's like, oh geez, oh no, what do I do? That's the situation she ended up in, and the situation that many women are in that she wants to raise awareness about. She made a really good video telling her story, and we covered that in the past, but she recently released a new video talking about one of my favorite phenomenons among conservative women. We're gonna get a little misogynistic here today, but exclusively towards conservative women, don't worry. Not even just conservative women, actually. MAGA conservative women. Y'all know the look, right? The heavy plastic surgery, the lip filler, the long what are the fake eyelashes that are like press-on nails but for eyelashes that are super long? The wing makeup, the wing eyeliner makeup. South Park nailed the bit with Kristi Noem. Like, they always have the same overdone look with their cosmetic plastic surgeries. They always have deformed themselves beyond natural human look. And it's so uniform, it's gotten to the point where it's hard not to think about these women coming out of some kind of factory somewhere where they're all mass-produced and sent straight to the Fox News headquarters directly. Who knows? But I figured this Life Take Two channel might be a good one to go to on this topic. I was recommended this video, and I thought we'd give it a watch. There'll be a link to the original down below in the description, assuming when I edit and upload these videos, it's like 3 a.m. and I like wake up an hour beforehand. I like start drinking a Monster and I begin editing, so if I forget to put it in there, just yell at me in the comments, and when I see the comments, I'll add the link. Sorry if I forget. But with that said, without any further ado, leave a like and a comment down below. Boosts the video. Appreciate it a ton. It helps a lot. Thank you. Subscribe if you want to see more from me if you like it. And join my Discord if you want to be a part of my community and fan base in the future. Don't want to miss any of those cool events like watch parties and movie nights. That said, without any further ado, let's get into it. The MAGA Face Explained.
I'm Jenny Gage, and this is Life Take Two. Hey everybody, I am back from my Christmas sabbatical feeling spicy and ready for some action. If you're new here, I'm Jenny Gage. This is Life Take Two. Part of the reason why I'm called Life Take Two is that I didn't just leave MAGA. I didn't just leave my lying, cheating, Mormon returned missionary husband of 24 years.
I remembered well enough. He was Mormon. I did not know that he was a cheater, but that's about right.
I didn't just leave trad wife life. I left everything. I left ex-Mormonism, the alt-right, prepping, Christianity, my home, my dog, everything, and started completely over.
Let me just say this to you right now, because I know there's got to be at least one person who will watch this video and needs to hear it. There is not a single human being in the history of the planet Earth who was in a toxic, abusive situation, and they were afraid to leave it because change is scary, mixing things up is scary, like going into the unknown is scary, but, you know, better the devil you know, right? No one who has ever made the leap to escape that toxic, abusive situation in the history of all of mankind on the planet Earth has ever gone on to regret the decision to make that leap of faith. Not a single person ever has regretted it. If you're stuck in a situation like what she's describing, or any kind of abusive, awful situation, and you're reluctant to make a serious change and get out of it because of that fear, that better the devil you know kind of fear, just know, I'm not going to tell you what to do, I'm just going to tell you, no one who's ever made the decision to leave that situation has ever regretted it in all of human history. That's all I'll say, because I know someone needs to hear that. I know someone does. I've known a lot of people who are in abusive relationships, and they were just terrified to get out of it. Because the change scares them. And they got comfortable in a toxic dynamic.
Process started 7 years ago, and here on my channel I share that journey and some of the insight that I've gleaned along the way. I sometimes feel like the Rosetta Stone because I can translate conservative ideologies into everyday language for you to understand. Our topic of the day today is what people call MAGA face. I'll give you a couple examples here.
Ah, there we go.
It's a very distinctive look, and you guys know what I'm talking about. And I want to start by...
Oh my god. Okay, I don't know what, but she reminds me of something. Wait, you know what she reminds me of? Hold on. I think I know. Oh my god, is this right? I need to see the image. I don't know why, but her face looks like the neutral pose of this character. I've never seen One Piece, by the way. I just know everyone knows this one meme. It feels like if this character went back to a neutral facial state, he'd look like this.
By just throwing this out there, I'm going to lead with this. MAGA targets trans women because they want their women to be the only drag queens. You heard me, and I stand by that. So 7 years ago, I started posting about my journey out of Mormonism on TikTok. And sometimes I would just be wearing like a baseball cap. Sometimes I'd have a little bit of makeup on, but every once in a while I'd get really glammed up. And this was right after I had left the Mormon church. So I still had this very Mormon-y look to me. And whenever I had like the full Mormon look on, people in my comment section always asked if I was trans. I didn't understand why so many people thought I was trans. For a while, I had gone kind of darker with my hair. And
something that a lot of people aren't aware of if they don't know many trans women in particular. Trans women, I don't know if there's like a trend about this. All I can say is from experience. There's no data that I could possibly pull from to try and make a conclusion on this. All I can do is go off anecdote, to be clear. But I've seen that a lot of trans women like to bring back names that are considered like dead old woman names, you know? Like Gertrude and stuff like that. Like really old school traditional feminine names, like ones that like you just don't hear or see anymore, sometimes get brought back. And a lot of trans women that I know low-key will lean heavy into some like trad wifey aesthetics just because it's sort of almost an extra way of performing femininity. And sometimes for trans women, simply performing femininity is validating and feels nice, even if it's for no one but themselves. And so, in a lot of ways, it makes sense why so many people see like a Mormon cis woman trad wife on social media and think, are you trans? Because a lot of trans women carry themselves in a lot the same way, present themselves in a lot the same way, an over-performance of femininity for the sake of validation. You know? even if it's just for themselves.
So people told me all the time that I looked like Caitlyn Jenner's sister. And then one day I watched one of my videos where I had my full glam on, and I honestly had this out-of-body feeling watching myself. And it hit me that my Mormon trad wife vibe was more draggy than drag queens. The extensions, the lashes, the glossy Utah curls.
The lashes are something I never see anyone bring up, but like, I don't know jack shit about makeup, but one thing I do know about is eyelashes, because I've got that thing. There's like a genetic... It's like a fairly common genetic alteration where most people just have one row of eyelashes, right? But then like something like a third of the population, you can check yourself to see if you've got it. I do. Where instead of like a row of eyelashes, I've got like a shark's mouth version of that, where it's like 8 rows of eyelashes overlapping and intertwining upon each other. So I've basically just got this like bushy eyelash forest coming out of the tips of my eyelids. Some of you will also have this. A decent proportion of you will also have it. Most people just have one straight, perfect row of eyelashes, though. And so for me, I have very thick eyelashes. It annoys the fuck out of me. I've always got ones that are loose or falling out or getting in my eye. And so when I see some conservative trad wife lady with eyelashes that reach nearly to her eyebrows that are all like, it's like, okay, those are fake. Those are fake, and they stand out to me like a beacon on your face. I'm not a big fan of fake lashes, okay? You're appropriating my culture as someone who has a literal genetic deformity of sorts that results in having more than normal eyelashes. I only found out about that like a year ago, by the way. I had no clue that I had, like, I was always like, God, why are my eyes always burning? Fuck. And then I found out, wait, you're only supposed to have one row of eyelashes? Huh. I thought everyone had, like, 8 of them stacked on top of each other. Like, every single row.
Contouring everywhere, like so much contouring. The push-up bra, Erica Kirk style raccoon eyes, stiletto heels.
There it is.
Pencil
there it is.
From
That's the Erica Kirk style raccoon eyes. Okay, I'm glad we've got a name for it.
Forever 21, caked on foundation, so much jewelry, long, super bright nails, tons of spray tans, Spanx, even my church girl voice, which I no longer have, thankfully, but this is how I speak.
I knew it! I knew that way of speaking. I knew that way of speaking was a put on. I knew it had to be. I knew it fucking had to be. Oh, okay, I feel so validated in my assumptions now. I knew that way of speaking had to be a put on.
Spoke for most of my life until I left that community and grew a few more brain cells. So I watched that video that day, had this like out of body experience, and sat in my car freaking out and thinking to myself, what is the actual difference between me and a drag queen? Like, is there a difference? And was I, as a
well, drag queens are doing it for fun, to be fair.
Mormon trad wife, actually dressed in drag? Well, the answer is yes, hell yes. Yes to all of that stuff. First, let's define drag. A form of performance art, entertainment, or self-expression involving exaggerated, feminine, or masculine personas with elaborate wigs, costumes, and makeup. The word drag, by the way, comes from 19th century theater, where men playing women wore petticoats that would drag on the floor. Isn't that cute? I actually can't get that.
Yeah, they didn't like women doing anything of note back in those days, so even the women in plays would often be portrayed by men dressed as women. Because it's all a horseshoe, okay? It's all a horseshoe. Eventually things get so sexist that they start putting men in dresses unironically, okay?
Picture out of my head now. Every time I say the word drag, I keep picturing 19th century theater men running around wooden stages with their petticoats dragging the ground. That's where the word drag comes from. Here's Mormon trad wife me. During my Christmas sabbatical, Kevin and I went to see the Pompeii exhibit at the Arizona Science Center, it was one of the most magical and painful experiences that I've had in a really long time. If you've seen this traveling exhibit, you'll know what I'm talking about. So I was faced with sculptures and artwork of women from 2,000 plus years ago. And it was interesting how natural the women looked and how much the women and the men looked the same. When you strip people down to their birthday suits and carve them into marble, there's not a lot of difference between men and women. The women may have had more ornate braiding around their faces and a little bit of eyeliner and rouge in some of the friezes and some of the artwork. You could see that there was some makeup on the women that they didn't have on the men. But the art depicting the women was very natural. It turns out that male animals and female animals in the wild don't have a lot of distinctive differences. And conservative men today, they don't like that. They buy into these really extreme gender roles. You hear these terms, real men and real women, and these real men.
This is true. There's a lot of misinformation about the animal kingdom that gets passed around by bro science that gets ingrained in broader society and repeated to a really surprising extent. One of the best examples of this is the concept of an alpha wolf. What has been found is that most intelligent, and that includes dogs, wolves, things like that, most intelligent animals in a captive setting, this includes humans by the way, will typically form rigid hierarchies because resources are limited, space is limited, everything's limited, right? There's not enough of everything to go around, stress is high, everything about the environment is abnormal. Everyone is always in survival mode, whether you're an animal or a person. And so in a prison environment, in a zoo environment, in any kind of captive environment, animals tend to form rigid hierarchies, typically with the biggest, strongest, most violent and angry at the top. The alpha, And so in captivity, it's been observed among, well, frankly, humans and among animals. Let's be real. Have you seen the prison system? That there's always an alpha wolf. There's always a guy on top, right? And so this mindset is applied a lot by bro science type dudes to assume that the natural state of all animals, or most animals, is a highly regimented, strictly enforced hierarchy with an alpha at the top who, through a natural selection process, reaches the top by simply just, out-chatting the other males, right? And you can see how this view of females and males in their natural place in evolution and nature, how that mindset, taught by bro science, is applied to their worldview about men and women and dating, how far-reaching that mindset goes and how toxic it can be. The thing about it is, it's not even close to accurate, because in true nature, outside of a pen, outside of a prison environment or a zoo, all these theories fall apart. The initial paper where the concept of alpha wolf originates from, its writer has come out to say and debunk the paper because it's been determined that wolves' behavior is entirely different outside of captivity, and the whole alpha wolf thing doesn't end up happening. In fact, many of the animals that we so frequently compare to humans in this context, ironically enough, have matriarchal societies in nature. Think wolves, think lions, think most of the primate kingdom, what we're most related to. Our most close living ape ancestors, or ape cousins, so to say, live in matriarchal societal structures. I'm not saying that means that in nature, humans our natural place is in a matriarchal society, nor am I saying it should be a patriarchal one. I frankly believe that humans and our intelligence and, the fact that Hank Green said something really special, or something that really stood out to me. You know that saying, a lot of people like to say this, humanity is a parasite, humanity is a disease? It's very much not true. Humans are the only species in all of Earth's history that despite having more access to abundance than ever, we've chosen to stop breeding. Our birth rates are dropping. In no other population ever, when all other needs are more met than ever before, and I know things are rough for people all around the world right now, but let's be clear, compared to 100 years ago, like, things are easier. Okay, they're easier than they were 100 years ago for the average person. Like, it's simply just safer to exist. You're less likely to die by 50 from the Spanish flu or some other disease, right? There's less wars to have to worry about going off to die in, you know? And yet, birth rates drop. Like, that's a pretty big difference compared to any disease or any other species on Earth for that matter. I think humanity's very special. And I think that the idea of these, like, bro science people trying to say, oh, yeah, the alpha wolf, yeah, male-dominated society is what's natural, bro. I don't even think that logic applies in the first place. The logic itself is flawed, but even if you apply that logic to nature, it doesn't even end up applying for humanity, or humans, you know. It's like, I could rant about this all day, but let's move on.
And want us to be really womanly. So they make us all dress in drag. And the MAGA face, the Republican face, the conservative woman vibe that we are seeing everywhere, it's just a response to the men, and our lives are just one giant drag show. So I spent my whole entire life performing hyper-feminine.
You ever hear the term trophy wife? Like, the phrase trophy wife, I mean, obviously, you know, oh, yes, you know, my trophy, my reward, my you know, my beautiful reward of a wife, right? But there's also an implication of what do you do with the trophy? You set it up on display. You brag about it. You show it off. You use it as a symbol that denotes your superiority over others, your accomplishment, your achievement over others. The concept of a trophy wife, which is very much what every conservative man wants, is fundamentally to turn their wife into a walking, talking symbol that they scored and locked another human being into a relationship that they can't leave without some pretty serious difficulty. And they want to, like, use their wives as they literally want to use them as a trophy, like what their old college football trophy they keep up on the shelf to brag about when their friends come over. That's the same way they view their wives. So of course they want their wives to get shitloads of plastic surgery and to wear tons of makeup and to overperform femininity because they want to brag. They want their wife to be their trophy.
As a character named Jenny for my MAGA community, my Mormon neighbors, and my ex-husband, Stinky Jake. Why? That is the question that I want to pick apart for you today. Why does the MAGA face exist? Why is the Mar-a-Lago drag wife even a thing? Why are Utah curls so real and so mainstream? And why couldn't I just have my own damn eyelashes? The answer is men, specifically the patriarchal social hierarchy that we all exist in right now, where men hold all top leadership and financial positions. I was in a religious store over my Christmas sabbatical. There's this little altar back in a corner showing devotion to a Hindu god. It was all these stair steps with the little god at the top, and there were fresh flowers and bottles of beer and money and just all kinds of stuff thrown around this god. It was fairly ornate, and it made me think about how...
Fun fact, if you're a kid, soda. Typically, like, Fanta works too. Like, it's an offering thing, but obviously kids can't offer alcohol.
How I was the altar of devotion to Jake and the patriarchy in which I operated. You see, in our patriarchal hierarchy, where men have the power, the leadership positions, everything, men are at the center and on top. So everything about us women, from our hairstyles and our tone of voice, is dictated by them. And by the way, they are primarily the fashion designers, the companies that make our...
Broader society is affected by the patriarchy in general, but what the patriarchy we're talking about here is some hardcore shit. You know, we're talking the way that these people want to run the country is a direct sort of reflection of the way they run things on a smaller scale in their households. The father is always like the king of the household. You know, the wife being the subservient slave to the husband, and the children being the lowest of the low, right? Like always being the, you know, yes sir, no sir, yes sir, no sir, right? A lot of conservative men view the whole rest of their family as their slaves, or at least they see a proper household as one where what they say goes, and the whole rest of their family, especially the kids and their wife, do as they say. What they say goes, his way or the highway. That's how it should be in their mind. And that's how a lot of them run their households. And that's how they want America to be run. They want Donald Trump to be the American household's father. And by American household, I mean America as a whole.
For makeup and set the hairstyles and everything. So not only are they demanding that we look a certain way, but they are also supplying everything that we need. They're giving us all of the tools and the props for the drag shows. And the men have decided on the exact era, that exact moment in a woman's life when they think that women are in their prime, which is the most sexy and desirable. And they want us to do everything that we can to freeze ourselves in time so they can be attracted to us forever. Desirability is a whole.
They, like, this might just be a function of the right, like, okay, I need you to understand that when I say this, I'm being 100% serious, and I'm not just saying it as, like, a tongue-in-cheek insult the right. Pedophilia is a core tenet of conservatism. A lot of the right-wing view of women is that every year older they get, the less valuable they are in the marketplace of dating. There is a very, very strong fetishization placed upon youth in women. And it's treated as a given, right? If you're a 40-year-old guy and you're dating a 19-year-old or an 18-year-old, most conservative men just see that as like a W, as an accomplishment of some kind, right? But most normal people and progressives are immediately like, that is weird as fuck. But obviously the right doesn't openly advocate for, you know, sexualizing underage kids. Not openly, not broadly, because that would be a really bad look. But they get as close to it as they possibly can, you know? Like, you see these guys on social media claiming 25 is when women hit the wall. If 25 is the wall, then you know that they consider the ideal age to be, it doesn't start at 18 for them. You know. So, yeah, pedophilia is sort of baked into conservatism. And I don't say this as an insult. I say this as like a full, serious analysis of conservatism and the way that they fetishize youth and women. It is fundamentally pedophilic. And when this view of women goes too far, when someone becomes too radicalized on it, eventually, you know how there's political lesbianism? I wouldn't be surprised if conservatives, once they get radical enough, like the Groyper type, start embracing political pedophilia. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the right-wingers on Twitter you see with the lolicon profile pictures are playing it up as part of their cultural adherence to the movement they're a part of. They're like being politically pedophilic, ironically. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. I could definitely see like this continuous political sort of virtue signal behind fetishizing youth and women going that far. Especially if you're willing to go so far as to become a Groyper, you know? If your virtue signaling right-wing opinions on race has gone that far there. I mean, imagine if it goes that far on women. It's very subhuman trait. Yeah, I mean, conservatives are not people.
Whole name of the game, and the younger and more virginal looking, the better. I think Peter Pan syndrome only projected onto somebody else where they never want us to grow up. They can get old, they can turn gray, they can have a dad bod and whatever, but they're projecting that Peter Pan syndrome onto us, which explains a lot about Epstein's Island. Now, this gets a little bit interesting because there are two standards of expectation for women's appearances. There's a single version and a married version. Single women just need to look hot and hyper feminine. So a single woman, let's picture a Charlie Kirk love.
A single woman can never be in the right, though. Okay? Because every individual conservative man wants every woman to be a slut for him. And only him. So if she's modest, but to every man, including him, then they'll get mad. Because she's not being slutty and easy for him. But if a woman is slutty and easy for everybody, including him, then they'll also hate her. So a single woman is damned if she does, damned if she doesn't. If she's modest and not easy, that includes being modest and not easy for insert individual conservative guy, which collectively is every conservative guy. They hate any woman who isn't willing to put out for them. But they also hate any woman who's willing to put out frequently. And so the average woman who's willing to fuck a conservative guy is probably willing to fuck a whole lot of guys and has pretty low standards and is probably kind of easy, right? And so any single woman, no matter how modest or how slutty, cannot win in the worldview of these conservative guys. Because all of them are so motivated by personal selfishness that unless they live to please, unless every woman on earth lives to please that specific guy, which can't be done. Every woman on earth can't live to please every specific particular conservative guy exclusively. That's by definition not possible. So yeah, conservatives literally want to have their cake and eat it too. They want every woman on earth to be extremely modest and reserved, but also to be the biggest slut in the world for exclusively them. And this is how every conservative guy thinks.
Being country girl who goes to a mega church, right? She can just be a natural beauty. Really girly, really sexy, glossy hair, good body, big smile, big eyes. That's enough. That's good.
I should clarify, by the way, when I use terms like slut or easy or whatever, I'm not trying to be misogynistic. I don't know whatever word to use. If anything, I'm using that as a term of endearment, okay? I assume I don't have to explain that, but just in case.
Once they're married, though, that's not enough. The plastic surgery begins. That's because once a woman gets married, she goes from just being a sex symbol to a status symbol. The more work they have done, the fancier clothes,
the trophy wife,
the longer the extensions, the more it reflects on the hard-working capitalist husband behind the scenes. A woman with lots of plastic surgery shows that her husband can afford to pay for her makeovers and that she has absolutely nothing better to do than just look hot for him. It's all about men. And this wacky combination of men and capitalism and desire globs together in the perfect storm to create.
It's the big tell is always that valley under the eyebrow. I forget what that area is called, but every time I see that where it looks like a crevice that you could like slip a coin into, I immediately know like, you got a lot done. You went too far in the Skyrim character creator. You pushed those sliders way too far.
MAGA face. And every conservative trend for women out there today. So let's start at the top. Why do the men care if we're desirable? Because in our current system, created by men for men, the lives of men pretty much suck. They destroyed our tribes and their own purpose. In capitalism, they go to work all day, every day until they die. They have no meaning or value outside of work. And the only ray of sunshine that they have in their dark, cloudy, stormy little lives is a warm, sexy body to come home to, dinner on the table, and access to sex. For most men, it's the only exciting thing in their lives. Thus, our patriarchal capitalistic system has monetized and hyper-sold sex, because this is the only thing exciting that men have. So let's make a whole bunch of it and put it out there for all the men. As this patriarchal capitalism corroded our villages and destroyed non-monetized value and kept men too busy to have meaningful relationships, for many men, the only human connection that they have and the only physical touch that they have is with the women in their lives. And for far too many men, the only physical touch they get is sex. I read a study a couple years ago about how even male...
That's real. That is very real. Dudes, in general... At least, maybe I'm speaking mostly from my own experience, but like, I don't typically like to be touched out of nowhere. It's not that I don't like it, it's that I don't expect it. And no one likes to be touched unexpectedly, and most guys don't expect to like suddenly receive a hug. So there's been cases where it's like, I meet up with a friend and they go for a hug, and I'm like I low-key, like, I step back for a second, like, whoa, why are you coming at me? Hey-oh! You know, like, what the fuck? Like, when someone's, like, very affectionate and, like, very touchy, you're always like, okay, alright, cool. I wasn't expecting that, but alright. Yeah, guys don't typically show a lot of physical affection with each other, and guys don't typically get shown a lot of physical affection outside of relationships and familial type stuff. So, that is a big part of it. Like, a lot of guys have had their views of intimacy as a concept severely poisoned by goon, you know? Like, the idea of physical contact with another human is just purely associated with sex for them.
Children get less hugs per day than female children. And I have to say that, like, everybody hugs me all the time. There's just something about me that gives off hug me vibes, and I'm fairly huggy, so I have a lot of physical touch and affection from my girlfriends, from my children, from people around me, but Kevin only gets hugged by me and our kids. I've heard from sex workers that I've interviewed that a lot of their clients will actually just ask to be held and to be heard. And as a mom of sons, that just makes me so sad. I'd like to hear from some of you men on this one. Does this resonate with you? Like, does that sound true to you?
Reminds me of that one Unsullied soldier in Game of Thrones. Do you remember that one scene where the Sons of the Harpy are ambushing the Unsullied, and that one Unsullied soldier gets, like, his shit rocked when he goes to that one brothel? Y'all know the one.
So, if men lose their desire for us, and they no longer want to sleep with their wives or girlfriends, then they lose their only human connection as a result. So they're fairly desperate to desire their wives. So we women carry the brunt of their sociological problems so they can feel connected and have the last shred of intimacy left in this twisted system that they built. By the way, men in tight-knit communities where they're valued for who they are and value others as they are, and have a strong feeling of belonging to a larger community, do not hyperfixate on women's appearances like this. Scandinavian countries are a great example. There's more. Things go off the rails with really wealthy conservative women because elites want to demonstrate access to resources, especially resources the commoners don't have. My grandma had this phrase that she used, well-bred. I remember her weaponizing it against me a couple times, like, Jenny, you're too well-bred to not have your knees crossed in church.
I have never heard that phrase before, and yet it just sounds so familiar. You know, like, growing up in the South, it's like, yeah, I bet that's more of like an Arizona, Utah, Mormon, like out west kind of thing, but that sounds like the kind of phrase that would get a lot of play in the South, you know? You're too well-bred to not cross your legs in church. You're too well-bred. You know, it's very weird. See now why gay people call straight people breeders? See now why they do that? I was confused about it for a while too, as a straight guy, but then I started noticing. I was like, shit, you're kind of right about that. The gays have a point.
Too well-bred to burp at the table. You're too well-bred to call your sister a turd. When you consider yourself well-bred, you want to demonstrate to other people that you're better than them. Because people are crazy. I mean, honestly, like, the deeper you dive into psychology, we are weird animals. We really are. Back in the day, the fattened queen showed that she was well-bred because poor people didn't have access to calorically dense food. It used to be ankles not showing meant well-bred because of access to fabric. Now we all have fabric. There's Amazon fashion that everybody can afford. So the elites have to move the mark to prove they're better than us. So now it's toned legs, and this whole asses out trend is the status symbol. You see like Taylor Swift and celebrities wearing like...
Yeah, we're in the ass era, big time. Big time. Big time in the ass era. I feel like I grew up in like the end of the titty era, and I came into like my teen years as we entered the ass era. You know what I mean? If you're a straight guy, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Little swimsuits is an actual outfit with like a blouse and all their diamonds on top. And that's because with the asses out trend, with the short skirts, these little bikini bottoms masquerading as clothing, ankles, knees, butts, the toned legs are everything because it shows that you have the money and the leisure time to go to the gym. Ballerina Farm is a great example of this mark moving.
To be fair, though, on the bright side, ass is something that can actually be made, like, you can improve your ass. That's, like, you can put work into that. Titties, you can't really do much about except get surgery for, or maybe gain weight. But, like, you can, like, squats, if you do enough squats, you'll get toned up. You know, at least it's something you can affect. But, yeah, there's a lot of very toxic and forced sort of expectations of how to present yourself as a woman, even if you're married, because while you don't want to be showing yourself off too much, as far as these men are concerned, you got to do it a little bit, because these men want your presence next to them to be a flex. This is what feminism talks about when we discuss objectifying women. You know, you hear objectifying women enough that it kind of stops having any meaning anymore once you've heard it a million times, but it means to dehumanize and treat as an object women. And that is exactly what they do, fundamentally. Women are objects to them. They treat them as property. They think of them as property. They talk about them like an asset on a market. Like some kind of speculative market, like a crypto. I don't know. That's nothing new. I mean, it's nothing new, but it's worth talking about still, I'd say. Anyway. If y'all enjoyed my commentary in this video, leave a like down below. It really helps a lot, whether you're watching this live or in the future when this comes out as a video. Subscribe if you want to see more from me and ring the bell icon if you liked it. Comment down below and say plastic. That'll be our code word. That you watched all the way to the end. You can comment plastic, and I'll know that you watched all the video. Comment that down below, it also helps a ton. And make sure to join the fan Discord if you haven't done so already. It's the main hub of my community and fan base, and on top of that, I host gaming events, call-in streams, watch parties, and movie nights there. So hopefully I'll see you around in the Discord. But until next time, have a good one.